marketologists, we have another marketing strategy session, and I have Catherine Evans Nunez. Did I get it right?
You absolutely did.
Being that I don't speak Latin, but I want to get it right, and I want to learn it too. But welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate the opportunity to deliver value to your network, to your audience, and to have some really fun, engaging conversations. So let's geek out on marketing.
So we got three things to talk about. We've got personal brand, and I know a lot of people are excited about being the next celebrity. We've got LinkedIn marketing, which seems to be the
hot topic.
It is.
Yes.
It is. And everybody's like, how in the world do I market on LinkedIn? And then to piggyback on that, we've got social selling, which every business to business, provider wants to learn, how can I sell, on social media? And,
yes.
Because we can't pay with likes and, followers. That just doesn't pay any bills. But
and even if you're an influencer and you have those million followers and you have those likes, you still might not be able to sell anything.
Yeah, but that's the funny part, that many people don't know that, some of those people have a lot of following but aren't selling, but they're comparing their business campaign to these influencers. Yeah. It's apples and oranges.
And I don't have the statistics today, but there's only one Angelina Jolie. There's only one Prince William, and the odds of, and I don't want to put you and I on any lower track, but the odds that I'm going to be the next Angelina Jolie or you're going to be the next Prince William is pretty much zero. Yeah. So comparing ourselves to that is using somebody else's yardstick to measure our own success. And that's really something that we have to be careful with.
It is. And I a lot of times talk to businesses, and whenever I talk to them, I let them know that I call it chasing Amazon, because a lot of businesses want to compare themselves to the Amazons, the Walmarts, the Home Depot. Different ball game. You've got people with unlimited marketing budgets that they can leverage. You've got people with inside representatives inside of some of these larger advertisement platforms that they can call personally and say, hey, my ad isn't working right. Can you fix,
Like their one and only job is analytics review, right? They just look all day long, what are my KPIs and what are my metrics and how am I going to make it better? And that's all they do. And so that's not where most of my target market is, right? I consult B2B service-based entrepreneurs. And those tend to be solopreneurs, a speaker or a coach or someone that exited corporate America, or they've been coaching and consulting for a while and they need to pivot now in the new world that we are in. They were a stage speaker and they sold from the stage. So those people, right, if they haven't built their company to the multi-million dollars, they're really looking a little farther down the road than where they are today.
And it's interesting because they can have a very comfortable lifestyle without having the millions of followers. They can really, have a handful of loyal followers and make a very good living doing that. And I think that's very important to understand. It's not the quantity of how many followers you have, it's who's following you. And, that brings me into the personal brand. How do you develop yourself as an expert or authority with your personal brand? Is it, something as simple as you look the part, or is it that you have to have the huge credentials and the big client base? How do you develop a good personal brand?
One thing I like to say, it's very cliche, but you have to know yourself to grow yourself. So I really do start all of my clients at the same square. And that is understanding what you stand for and understanding what you stand against in your own personal life. Because we're talking about right now, for the most part, the solopreneur, right? Or the person that's just scaling their business. Maybe they have 3 to 5 contractors, or they have a virtual assistant, or maybe they even have their first employee, whatever. But they need to understand that they can't be all things to all people. So we start at square one with really understanding your psychology of your brand archetype. And once you understand that, then a lot of things in your life tend to make more sense. And you begin to form a sense of clarity in who you are. And then you can say no to more things and yes to the right items that will help move you forward in your business. So let's look at you for let's look at you for a second, with you and your personal brand. So you're showing up today with a bright red color, right? So that's like a power color. And if you were to look up and around in your house, in your world that you live in, or in your virtual world, is red one of those dominant colors that you have around you a lot? Or is it just a coincidence you have red on today?
It's a coincidence. That's interesting because my brand colors are actually blues. And that's very interesting. Yeah.
Well, do you see my painting? Reds and blues are bold colors.
Yes. Yes.
So it's and we're not getting into the psychology of color, but I'm just talking about understanding. When you're looking at your personal brand, you create a sense of awareness and you become more conscious. Wow, how am I showing up in the world? And I'm not telling you to go change your closet, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, understand how you're showing up in the world, making sure that how you show up online and offline are consistent.
Okay.
If you're preaching about religion and family values, I'm not going to catch you on your personal Facebook page taking pictures of hanging in a bar with a bunch of single people, right?
Yeah.
And you separated from your wife 6 months ago. So making sure that you're living on brand and that your brand values and your personal values and all of those things are congruent, it just helps you step into living on brand in your life in general. And so the personal brand is very important, because then once you establish that, your brand archetype, your brand, your visual world that you want to take people into, then I usually move my clients forward into understanding what they want to be known for in the world. And some of those things could be, for me, I stand for women's rights and for the women's movement of moving women forward in this world, for the rights of all people, for the indigenous people, for all races, animals. Like, those are the things I stand for. And so I use those things in my personal brand by taking pictures, let's say, and posting on Instagram of me volunteering at a women's march. Or I have a rescue horse. So I take pictures in my dress and boots of me with the horse. So I weave some of those things that are super important to me into my brand, so that I give my overall persona more depth. People then start to connect with you. Like, oh my gosh, I have a horse. I'm rescuing horses, or I used to take horseback riding lessons when I was young. So they find some different emotional place where they can connect with you. And it's not, I didn't give away my life. I didn't give away the names of my children or their social security numbers or where they go to school. I just gave a little peek into those things that I stand for. And it just helps. It helps with all different types of things. It helps with attracting. That's when I like to say you use your personal brand as a client magnet. You start to attract your tribe and the people that feel like they know you. Before they get you on the phone, before you speak to them, they've been following you and watching you, and they feel like they know you, so that when the time is right and you say, let's hop on a 15-minute call, I think I can help you with that. I just read your ask. They're like,
Okay.
they say yes because they already feel like they know you. So it takes some of that cold calling, if you will, away, because you've built a personal brand. They get to know you, and now they can connect with you on a different level. That was a long explanation.
Well, no, that was great. I mean, because it brought up a question: how much of it is, I would call it, scripted, and how much of it is organic lifestyle shots? So you know, with social, you have so many people that have scripted shots. Either A, they're so overproduced professionally, or B, they're in front of I don't
a rented Maserati or
yes, yeah, I didn't want to say it, but I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. I mean, they're living this fake persona, and so you know how, especially when you're dealing with business to business, you know, how much of it should be scripted, or how much of it should be just real life, organic lifestyle shots.
So that is a complicated question and answer, because one of the things that I believe is that an entrepreneur on their journey, they need to realize and understand that where they are is exactly where they need to be on their journey.
Okay.
So there's certain pictures you can take of I want a Porsche. Like, let's say I want a Porsche, and I'm going to go to the Porsche dealership, and I'm going to take a picture of myself in this Porsche, and I want to post it on social media because that's my goal. But then the post that you might put around that picture is talking about the journey that you're taking to get the Porsche.
Okay.
So you can use that type of a post to engage your personal story or your personal journey, so that once again, you might call somebody out and they're like, I want a Porsche too. Like, I'm going to go to the Porsche dealer and take a picture now and talk about, this is the kind of car I want. So there's a place where you could use photos, lifestyle photos like that in your message or in your personal brand lifestyle, but not to brag, to use it as inspiration, that this is what I'm working towards. And when I have that money in the bank, I'm not even sure I'm going to buy it, but it's a symbol of something I'm working towards.
Okay.
And I would say that you could use that type of a post on an Instagram.
Okay.
Or a Facebook, maybe not a LinkedIn, unless there is a life story or a success story or something that's associated with it.
Okay. And so you're basically saying, when you're using these platforms, leverage them differently, not one size fits all when it comes to posting.
Yes. So one of the things also that I work with people is to understand what your goals are. So every day when you sit down and you're going to write social media posts, like, what's my goal for being on social media? Somebody said, like, here's a good one. Well, I don't want to go sideways. I would say Clubhouse, like, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yes.
Just because it exists, doesn't mean you need to jump right in it unless your target market's there. Like, you need to understand what the long-term strategy of being on that platform is. But you have different strategies for different platforms. For example, my target market, we've already identified what it is. Well, they're on Facebook to watch cat memes and have fun with their friends and family. They also are on Facebook because they're in learning groups. Like, maybe they're in a mastermind, or they're working with a private coach and they have a Facebook group, or they want to write a book and they're in this group about how to write books, or maybe they scrapbook and they're in a different group. So it's more of it could be a hobby or a growth reason that they're on Facebook. They're on LinkedIn because they're using it for sales, or they're looking for someone to work with, or they're just literally trying to grow their network so that they can network with people. So somebody on Twitter might want to be, maybe they're political activist, or they really quick want to get an opinion out to somebody. So they use that would serve an audience that's quick with opinions, or they're out doing something and they know that their target market and their decision makers are there, so they can quickly interact with them. So just understanding what's your goal. Am I building my brand? Am I educating my audience? Am I running an ad? What's your goal for being on that platform? And then nail the platform.
Okay. Okay.
Before you try to be all things to all people.
Okay. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So when you're nailing LinkedIn, because that's the one that I think is challenging because it is so professional and business to business. What would be some of the strategies that you would recommend when leveraging LinkedIn? I mean, their platform, whether it's advertising or just social posting or interacting with people, is totally different. Like you said, they're there to network, to do business. It's a lot different than if you're on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. It's a lot different. So how would you say approaching LinkedIn messaging and LinkedIn marketing? What would you recommend in that aspect?
For some reason, I don't like the term LinkedIn marketing, because that makes me feel slimy, that I'm there to sell to somebody. And so LinkedIn for me is building your subject matter expertise.
Okay.
So that your target market knows who you are, they know who you serve, and they understand what the outcome is of working with you in your business.
Okay.
So how am I going to take that audience on that journey? How am I going to create this brand awareness, this subject matter expertise, and draw my people to me? And that's where the strategy comes in.
Okay.
With understanding what's your goal for being on LinkedIn. and it's bigger. So with social selling also, I'll kind of branch into that, because social selling is a top of funnel. I speak with my hands. Okay. It's a top of funnel activity that's more prospecting.
Okay.
So you are creating the subject matter expertise. You're using it to look for your target market. You're identifying who they are. You're building a strategy to see how active they are on LinkedIn. You're listening to the brand mentions that they're talking about. You can find other decision makers on it. So it's really can be a research tool, and that's really a prospecting tool. So social selling is finding, connecting, and engaging with your target market. Mm-hmm. But actually, how many sales are you going to make by throwing up in somebody's inbox, right? You're not spamming them.
Yeah.
You're educating them, and you're moving, you're moving them along the buyer's journey, so that when you're ready for the offer, when they're ready to reach out, when they know they have a problem and they've identified that you're the person, or your brand is the one that can solve that problem, now you're top of mind, because they've seen your posts, and they're going to reach out to you. Like, I think you have a problem. I think you can solve my problem. I now know, I'm aware I have a problem. I've researched the different solutions. I've looked at all of them, and with your post, you've given me a compelling reason why your solution would be better for me. Now I'm super aware, and I'm ready to work with you. What would that look like? And then those conversations you have offline. You have those conversations on the phone.
And that's a great point, because I know my inbox is filled with people that are offering me services that I don't know, never really met. We may have connected on LinkedIn because of the connection, but all of a sudden it's like, hey, I want to set up a meeting and talk to you about, whatever the service would be. And I'm like, why would I do that? Especially sometimes it was funny, because early on, this is years ago, I still get them. I would get a lot of them about a service that I actually provided.
Yes, I
And I
get
was
those.
like, you didn't even read my profile. I mean, why would you offer that to me? And that's what I do. And so, I knew that they were just copying and pasting and just sending it to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that is very important, becoming an authority on LinkedIn. And I think that's changed so much, because back in the days, you could do the question and answer. And I love the question and answer segment of LinkedIn, but they
Mm-hmm.
took that away. And groups isn't what it used to be on LinkedIn. I mean, groups basically, you just kind of crickets. You're kind of just
I
there.
used to be active in groups, you're right, but now it's like it's one more thing. I really think LinkedIn missed out on groups. Facebook does a much better job of groups.
Yeah.
And now people are even moving away from groups and building Slack channels.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a change. There's a change coming for sure. And so that's one of the biggest complaints I hear from my audience. I do a lot of speaking, and they say, I'm so tired of the spamming and everybody trying to sell me. And I say, why did you connect with that person? Like, did you just accept their connection because they sent you a connection request? Protect your network. You can only have 30,000 people in your network. Okay. So in my opinion, the only 3 categories you should have a connection with is someone that is a prospect, someone you might consider buying from in the future. Okay. Colleagues and people you used to work with, that's family and friends. Let's just say that's maybe I'll change it to 4. Okay. And then other people that you might want to follow and learn from. Okay. All the other people are just noise. So if you're getting spams in your inbox, take them out of your network. If they're not providing value to you daily or weekly or whatever, take them out of your network. Okay. You don't need them there. It's okay. Yeah. Okay. And so here's an interesting conversation I had through I get a little bolder the more I'm on LinkedIn. People tell me I'm too nice. So I had a connection with this woman, and she's like, my client list is full. I don't need you to sell me anything. She accepted my connection request, and then her response back, I'm full. I don't need you to sell me anything. I don't want to set up an appointment with you. Nice to meet you. And I'm like, okay. And so LinkedIn is a business networking platform, right? And so what's the definition of business? Oh, you transactions. I mean, you're doing transactions. You're not friends. You're just doing transactions. And it's not just transactions. It's a positive business transaction, right? I mean, some of them are negative, but so in just that definition, you're either giving information or you're taking information, but it's a business networking platform. Yeah. So if you want to be friends with someone and talk about cats and dogs and airplanes and scrapbooking, then move over to Facebook or move over to Pinterest or whatever. But it's a business networking platform. And that kind of helps you shape the form of how you're going to interact. I mean, I send every one of my connections happy birthday cards, customized happy birthday cards, and I want to know how they spent it. But that's an authentic part of my brand, because I even in my first sentence on my profile, I say I'm not here to build connections. I'm here to build relationships. Okay. So I want to know about the person. I authentically want to know about the person, but I'm not there as a dating site, or, if we can be friends as a result of our interactions on LinkedIn, that's great. But if you and I were just connecting on LinkedIn, I say, how can I help you? Like, what's your ask? What are you here for? What are you working on? And then I can look within my network of, 10,000 and see if there's somebody I know that can help you, or I can push your way or something. So it's definitely a networking platform, and people need to remember what the definition of business is and what the definition of networking is. It's to give and to receive.
Yeah, and that makes a whole lot of sense and changes the dynamic of LinkedIn and how you leverage it. Because, if you look at it like other social networks, you're looking at, oh, wow, I've got 10,000, 20,000 followers, or connections. And so you're building it based on those vanity metrics. And then in the real scheme of things, most of them probably aren't really good connections. They are not there building a relationship. And so that does clutter up your inbox. It clutters up your feed. It clutters up everything. And it makes it a lot harder to do business with people that are doing business with you, or would like to do business with you. So, I think I've seen the same thing happen in mailing lists. You can have a huge mailing list, but then you have a very small open rate, and come to find out your mailing list happens to be a bunch of people that downloaded a free lead magnet that may not have been well thought out. It just may have been something,
at 2 a.m. I'm laying in bed, autofill.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, I've got all these people, but nobody calls me, or nobody wants to set up an appointment. And then you find out, the majority of them aren't a good fit. I remember talking with a friend of mine, Michael. We were discussing contest marketing. And one of the things that we threw up in the air for a contest was giving away a free MacBook. And in theory, it's a great idea. But I started thinking about it more and more, and I'm like, my little one would sign up for that. She's 12. She was like, I want a free computer, So, I mean, it would get good results number-wise, but majority of them would have no interest in anything being offered by a business to them. They just want the free, computer. And so, I think that pruning is a great advice tip for everybody.
And the other thing to remember, which is hard for all of us, is people, we tend to be afraid to give out too much value because somebody's going to see our secret sauce, and I can't give that away on a podcast or on a LinkedIn or on a post, because then what am I going to pay? What am I going to get paid for? It's not fair to my other clients. But unless you have super fans that read every single thing that you do, you have to provide value to your target market. You have to understand what pain they have, and you have to give them a solution to that problem. You're going to have people that take your freebie or your problem or your solution and they implement it. And I had, case in point, I speak a lot. Like I said, I had someone I didn't even know that was attending all of my talks, and they sent me a DM and they said, I implemented everything that you said, and my business increased by 30%. And I'm like, crap, that should be in a testimonial. Like, how did that happen? Right? So you're gonna get raving fans. What's the downside of somebody implementing what you did and having positive results about it? They're going to tell other people. They're going to want to know what more you can do. What else can you do? If you gave that small of a nugget out and they took it, that's the kind of people you do want to work with, because they take action in something that you deliver. Then it's the other people that get overwhelmed. You told them the what, not the how. You told them what they needed to do. They tried to do it themselves and they fell flat on their face. And then their next phone call is going to be to work with you.
Yeah.
Or the other person that just attends everything and takes all the information, and just like you said, they're a hoarder and they're never going to implement anything, and they have no money and they're not going to call you. But maybe they're going to be they're going to refer you over to somebody. Hey, I know I digest all this person's information. you should check them out. So they might still become some sort of a brand ambassador. So there's really no downside to providing tons of value to your audience on any social form. And I didn't have to buy a MacBook.
Yes, yes, and that becomes, you know, something that's funny, because when you start looking at some of the things that are being given away, offered, some of the content that's out there, they get great numbers, but in business, it's not about just having a bunch of vanity numbers. And
Right.
you know, I've worked with small as well as large clients, and that is hard. They still want those vanity numbers, and it's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, we said our goal was this. How is having 100,000 Twitter followers obtaining this? Because based on our analytics, we haven't sold anything on Twitter. Nobody has become a client or a customer from Twitter. And so it's like, well, yeah, but we need to have the, our numbers up on our Twitter, account. And so we get lost in what's really important.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've done it too. I'm gonna be honest. The first time I did it, probably not the first time. But I remember one time I had a niece that did a YouTube channel, and it blew up. And I was like, how she blow up on a YouTube channel and she's not even trying, Right. And I'm like, what is going on? But I when reverse engineering, I realized, she was doing videos that were like little funny skits, her and her boyfriend, and she was getting a lot of followers from it. But she, and she did get some checks from YouTube from it, but it wasn't a business for her. And then when I start, of course, being that overpowering, over dominant uncle to say, hey, let's
monetize this, baby.
Yeah. Then she was like, I don't want to do it no more. She's like, I don't even want to do it no more. But, I think that that's important, because we look at it and say, oh, man, I got to get all these followers, all these fans. I got to get all. But honestly, at the end of the day, in business, you need customers and clients. You need business.
And it's always making sure that you have the right audience. It only takes one person to see your information. I did a post on LinkedIn, and it had, I believe, it might be at 15,000, right? 15,000 views. And I was, of course, I'm geeking out on the views and the metrics. So when I dug deeper, somehow it got picked up by the big accounting firms.
Okay.
And it went crazy in the accounting firms. And I thought, oh my gosh, maybe I should change my target market and start calling on accounting firms. And I'm like, you just bought into the whole vanity metric thing. I don't even serve accountants. I don't serve accountants. I don't know how that algorithm got picked up and got passed through to the accounting teams, but it was really interesting. So the metric might be there, but you need to dig in deeper and find out what caused that. Why it got served up to one or two accountants, and they're like, oh, look at this. Oh, it just went crazy. I have another story like that. We were working with a client, we're talking about metrics. We were working with a client whose website had just like these huge spikes on a few days.
Okay.
And we were like, wow, you're getting some good traffic. What is this one page? Well, her assistant was using their website booking system to book all of their appointments. So internally, they were driving the metrics up because they were using internally, they were going to their website. And I find myself doing that sometimes as well. Like, oh, that piece of content I want. I'm like, no, now I have a master sheet with all my links. I can just copy and paste them. I don't need to go hit my own website all the time. So, data is great, but really digging in the data, understanding what you're going to do with it, and then making a strategy to repeat it or to not repeat it. Data is really good. Use data to your benefit.
It goes back to what you said too. Knowing yourself, knowing exactly who you are and who you service.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that helps when you look at the data and say, okay, is this something that makes sense? You know, or is it something that just is nice to know? You know, yeah, that's nice, but that's
Yeah.
not who you
So listeners, if you're an accountant, call me. All of a
said,
sudden,
give her a call.
but you know, it is. Now I did open up by saying I work with B2B service-based entrepreneurs. So an accountant is providing a service, and for the most part, they're business to business. So I could be missing out, but it's really not my niche. It's not. No, I run from that. Although I'm a scientist by education, taxes are my nemesis. I just couldn't even imagine playing in that circle.
Yes, that makes your head hurt even saying the word tax.
Yes,
Like, oh.
yes. And when I was in corporate America, when I was young, even getting my expense reports done on time was a pain until I became a manager, and I'm the one that had to make sure everybody got them done on time. So yeah, numbers, I just don't see myself working with the numbers people.
Well, let's get into some numbers. Let's talk about your S cubed.
The S cubed methodology. And so S cubed, scientific again, is social selling strategy. So S to the third power, S cubed. And then the cubed part is my 5-step framework for building a social selling strategy, which is what we just talked about. Create a compelling personal brand, a compelling personal digital footprint. And then you, what we just said, understand your goals and why you're even opening up your computer for the day. Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to go down a rabbit hole and click on Facebook all day long and never get anything done? B is build your target market. We talked about that as well. Understand who you serve, what business problem you solve, and the outcome of working with you. E, we talked about as well, engagement. How are you going to match your content to the buyer's journey and making sure that you're measuring those metrics. And then D is develop offline relationships with your online connections, which is ultimately getting them on the phone and closing the deal. How are you going to take all those vanity metrics? How are you going to take those people from this top of funnel and move them actually into a closed deal? So that's the framework for working with me. And we go through all of those different steps in a 12-week program.
Okay.
The 12-step program. Maybe I need to add 13. So that it's 13 weeks. Yeah. 13
steps. Yeah, there are 12 steps. You might have some confessions coming through.
Right.
So
there are 13 weeks because we don't call the onboarding call as part of the week. So there you go, 13 weeks.
So that makes sense. So, I mean, you know, you've given a great overview of how to look at approaching, you know, social media when it comes to business selling, and, you know, taking back some of the myths, some of the stories, some of the pictures in front of the Maseratis, and saying, okay, if you're looking at doing business, you want to know yourself first. You want to know your audience. You want to know what you can deliver. You want to build authority by giving out good information and not being scared of that. You want to take each platform and leverage each platform for what it's intended to be, if you even leverage it, you know, because that's another thing. You don't have to do each platform just because it's out there. Right. I mean, I love TikTok like the next person. Matter of fact, my family can tell you, they're like, I'm going to confess, at 1 in the morning, they're getting all these forwards from TikTok from me.
I know.
Like, what is he doing?
I have a 13-year-old, and we can lay in bed and an hour's gone by with us laughing at TikTok videos. It's a total time suck, but for me, it's not a business tool.
Yes. And that's what because I thought about it. I was like, I can do some TikToks. I can have Nisi show me how to do all these filters, and I can do some cool TikToks, but it's not really my market. And though I use it for entertainment, it's not my market for business. And so, you know, leveraging each social platform for what it's worth. and then knowing how to, like you say, build relationships, not just connections with your actual network. So, you know, a lot of great information. And I know you said that you actually have something that you was going to offer to the listeners. They can go to your site and actually get more information that'll help them on their journey.
Yes, so I have a LinkedIn messaging playbook. I saw all the people that were spamming and throwing up, and everyone was saying the same thing on LinkedIn. So I wrote a messaging playbook that has different funnels that you can follow. Now, please, you guys, if you get the ebook, do not copy and paste. It is a template that I want you to think about how you would reword it and send out to your target market. But so it's an ebook. I have a free download of the top, I can't even tell you how many messages there are, but message formats. So for free, so you can download a page of that and use those templates for free.
Okay.
And we can put the link in the show notes so that people can access it and see what it is. And it's a $9 book, so it's not a big, huge purchase, but you can get the download for free of all of the common. I just took a whole plethora of messages. I have a swipe file, right? So I geek out on messages that people have sent me, and then I copy them and I put them over and then I reword them. So I have that for you as a gift.
Okay, and it's funny because you'll probably get a bunch of people and you'll be like, wait a minute, that's my template. Wait a minute.
No, here's the thing. I did. I got a message from somebody that was my message down to the exact check marks and everything. And I was like, okay. I'm like, you know how they say, what is it? Copying is the best form of flattery or whatever.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, you're like, well, it works. They're using it.
Yeah, they're using it.
Wow.
That's good.
That's amazing. Well, thanks so much for coming on and sharing so much with us. You know, I always learn so much when I do these interviews, and I'm hoping that the audience learned as much, if not more, than what I did. You know, there's some things that I probably should rearrange. Maybe I shouldn't do so many dances on LinkedIn. No, I don't dance. My little one told me never dance again, ever. I tried some of those challenges with her, and she was like, no, don't do it. So
I mean, it's okay to throw in once in a while just to give your audience a laugh. You know, don't be afraid. The thing is, don't get stuck. Just take action. Take action, reiterate, take action, reiterate. Don't overthink it. Be natural, put it out there, but know why you're there in the first place.
Great. That is the ending note right there. That is the one that's going to close it and it'll be a quotable. Yes. So everybody, thank you so much for coming on. All the information will be in the show notes. Please do not send Catherine her own swipe file as a message, but leverage what she's presenting to you to help grow your business. And we'll be talking to you on the next marketing strategy session.